It's OJ season. Simpson stories being told in the mainstream media, but they are the same old stories already told. Now, after 25 years, a new story emerges, and I get to tell it. Now, you may ask yourself, how do I fit into this Simpson situation? And you're right, because I watched it unfold on television just like everybody else. And at the time, I had no fucking clue of what was about to happen to me or my family. As I think back on the details of how this situation unfolded, I feel like my ritualistic lifestyle conjured this story up. It's a big claim to make, but I intend to back it up with the coolest O.J. Simpson story you've ever heard. It all started on the day of the slow speed chase. I was sitting at a club I was playing when the slow speed chase came on the television set. I was right next to the 5 freeway on Lake Forest Drive. OJ had to pass right by me to get on the freeway after leaving Nicole's grave, which is 5 miles up the road. After Simpson was spotted and tailed by the police department and the media, I get a call from my sister Jules telling me she just passed a slow speed chase as she drove the opposite direction on the 405. 2 weeks later, Nicole's big sister Denise comes into a Dana Point restaurant where Jules and I were performing. After Sis brought it to my attention, Denise was in the audience. I changed the song list to music that would touch her spirit, and it worked because Denise came back the next week to hear us. And that was the first time I said hello to Denise Brown. 2 years earlier, a restaurant where we were playing burnt to the ground with all my equipment on stage. It was all lost, and the restaurant had no insurance, so my musical equipment sat singed on stage for 4 years, and I was never reimbursed. Directly across the coast highway was Monarch Beach, the exclusive gated community where Nicole's family lived. I wasn't aware of them or the fact that they lived there until after the murders. For 2 years prior to the murders, I'd been visiting the restaurant at least once a week to peek through a soot-covered door and visit my burned equipment. About 2 or 3 months after the murders, the first Nicole Brown Simpson Foundation moved into an office in the same parking lot. For the next 2 years, I drive by and think about the Brown family when I pass the foundation. A few times I waved to Denise as she walked her dogs, but we never had a conversation until 1998. The ritual. Before I tell you the rest of this bizarre story, let me say this. I think I conjured this whole situation up because of my ritualistic lifestyle, which began in 1988 after being arrested and hauled away for bad cocaine habit and sales to a cop. Because of this incident, I was evicted and lost my gig, forcing me and my cocaine-addicted roommate to move into a cargo van. So me, Wendy, a boa constrictor, and a miter bird, and a Doberman pinscher lived in the van for 2 months. When her mother caught wind of it, she flew out from New York to drag her ass the snake and the bird back to New York by her ear. On the same day Wendy and Mary left to drive back east, I returned to the apartment where I'd been evicted to visit my buddy Tony, who was in the process of kicking his cocaine-loving girlfriend out of his apartment to live in her Volkswagen Bug. Karen was fine, sexy, hot, and talked with a Mississippi twang. She didn't move into her car. She moved into my van. Karen didn't have any parents to come and save her, so she and I and 2 dogs lived in the van for 8 months until I had to do my jail sentence. Karen was jonesing for some cocaine. With that twang, she was saying, "James, I want some cocaine. I want some cocaine." By this time, I was just as fed up with Karen as Tony was when he was throwing her out of his house. So in frustration, I drove my van to the highest point I could find in Dana Point and parked it. I grabbed my dog, Rugga, put him on his leash, and I put on a long white coat I used to wear on stage to simulate purification. I grabbed my Bible. I was wearing shorts and flip-flops and a long white coat as I walked a quarter mile or more to the top of the hill. As I began to walk up the hill, it was a calm day, when suddenly the wind picked up. And by the time I got to the top of the hill, the wind was blowing my long white jacket like a flag. To mark the apex of the hilltop was a slab of cement with a brass disc on it. Inside the brass disc was a pyramid which pointed to a pyramid-shaped mountain. After noticing that, I began to pray. I said, "Lord, please get this monkey off my back and show me the way and show me the path to take." Then I held my Bible down in the wind and let the wind blow through the pages. The wind blew through half the book perfectly when suddenly pages started to fold and ruffle. After the wind was done blowing through my Bible, I closed it and creased the pages, and as I walked back down the hill, the wind subsided. By the time I reached the van, it was calm. I took the Bible, put it on my dashboard, and got Karen and I some cocaine. We did cocaine and fucked that night. When I finally came down and opened the Bible a few days later, and to see what messages had been folded into my Bible, the first page to be folded was right in the middle of the Bible, and like a finger it pointed right to Psalms 1. When I read it the first time, it didn't make much sense. When the time came for me to go in and do my time, it was sad. Karen had no one to take care of her or nowhere to live and was on her own, and I was going to jail for 6 months. When I got to jail, the first thing I did was try to locate a Bible because I couldn't take one in with me. After searching the entire barracks, I came across a pile of newspapers, and underneath the newspapers was an old Bible with the covers torn off of it, just the pages. And I was happy to find that, so I took it back to my bunk. And when I opened it up, there was only one verse in that entire Bible highlighted in green. It was Psalms 1. And I had plenty of time to read it in jail, and it made sense to me then. While doing my time, I discovered there was a piano in the chapel and wanted to play it. So one day I went to church and asked the chaplain if I could play a song that I had written called God's Magic. He liked the title and let me play it for the inmates. After I finished, the inmates gave me a standing ovation and insisted I come back and play it every week while I was in jail. One Sunday, while sitting in the chapel, I looked down on the floor and found a bookmark reading True Happiness with some flowers on it. When I picked it up and flipped it over, there it was again, Psalms 1. And I was floored. I knew that that was a cosmic message, and that would be the Bible verse that kept me from going back to the drug-infested life I was now being freed from. After my freedom returned, I would go to Dana Point and walk my dog up that same hill often. It was called the Headlands, and in these headlands was a cliff looking into the ocean. It was the face of an Indian looking into the ocean, which now I believe could be a mud fossil. But that's another story for another time. I would stand on top of that hill and pray like I did before, with my arms stretched out to the heavens for everyone driving down the coast highway to see. I was standing on top of a hilltop, praying to God. Standing there, I would look at that slab of concrete with that pyramid pointing to a pyramid-shaped mountain and think to myself, I've got to get up there. I've got to get to the top of that mountain. Well, for someone like me, getting to the top of Saddleback Mountain wasn't going to be easy. It would take me almost 10 years before I got up there. It was 15 miles up a dirt road after you got to the end of all civilization. I wasn't going to walk. I wasn't going to ride a mountain bike. I had to drive a car and spend the night.